You are listening to Shoresight, a local news podcast serving the coastal Carolina region. We believe in solutions-based journalism, using the power of storytelling to build stronger and healthier communities. We are broadcasting from Wilmington, North Carolina. Our studio is right along the banks of the Cape Fear River. A poet once wrote, "The cure for loneliness is solitude." And another poet mused, "Loneliness is the poverty of self, and solitude is the richness of self." While these lofty words provide inspiration and reflection, loneliness is increasingly becoming a risk factor for mortality in America. We are going to talk about ways to counter the loneliness folks might be feeling here in the coastal region. We have all experienced loneliness. Friendships get harder to build as we grow older because of work and smaller social circles. Today's 18 to 24-year-olds report the highest incidence of loneliness. We should remember that loneliness isn't the individual's fault. You might have started working from home, your church might have stopped meeting face-to-face, or a health condition might have shrunk your circle of friends. You might have moved here from another community and not found your footing. You aren't by yourself. In a recent study by the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine points out that more than 1/3 of adults aged 45 and older feel lonely, and nearly 1/4 of adults aged 65 and older are considered to be socially isolated. Even before the pandemic, for decades, Americans have increasingly had few friends, participated in fewer groups, and we have seen churches and community groups shrinking. When we push back on loneliness, we are increasing our health and our lifespan. We can find social connections. To learn more, Shoresight's producer Laura Bratton went out into New Hanover County to find out how folks have both faced loneliness and what they have done about it.
My name is Caroline Cooley. I am 44 years old, and I teach yoga, and I'm in recovery 15 years. When I was in active addiction, I can remember this real profound moment when I realized that I was like laying in bed next to my husband and I just felt completely alone. I could be in a room full of people and feel completely alone. I often was. I often felt disconnected from the people around me. I don't know. I felt like nobody really understood what was going on in my head, and I didn't really feel comfortable articulating it to anybody, which is why I drank and used. I mean, when I was in addiction, I really truly thought that I was the only person that felt the way I did and that I was completely broken and unlovable, and that was the loneliness. I think it's just that idea of that you're experiencing this stuff in life that you feel like you're the only one that's ever experienced it, or you don't really see a way out of it.
Like there's loneliness as in like physical isolation, like, physically isolated from people, but then there's also like loneliness that I was thinking about where you're like with other people but you don't feel understood or seen. I have found it very hard to find authentic connections, especially like where I am right now, where I am working in the service industry, but I no longer want to partake in the service industry like environment. I've lived in a predominantly white area since I was in 3rd grade. And, I've went through my own cycles of self-hate for not being white. And not that anyone has ever told me to my face that I need to feel a certain way about not being white. But, like you're growing up, all you see is white, all you hear is white, especially if you are someone like me who's not good at being, lonely. I'm constantly wanting to be with other people. The older you get, the more, you want to know your identity. And, the more I realize that I really don't know my own identity as an Asian American. So I feel like that layer is definitely like physical loneliness, but also loneliness with myself of like, I don't really know what it means to be a Korean American.
For me, loneliness is when I am emotionally separated from those that I care about. I know that I'm going to go into a state of depression if I don't have regular conversation, if I'm not able to express what's inside of me to someone else. I go by Empty Bottles. My real name is Travis. I do entertainment full time. I am a stand up, I do comedy quite a bit. I always felt different and I always felt misunderstood as a child and then, as a teenager. And I never felt fully understood by those who cared most about me. The town I'm from, Western North Carolina, very, very white. Black folks, I'm blood related to, at least half, if not most of them in my community. As I got older, I've constantly found myself in very white spaces. And that has not stopped to this day. I've never been fully accepted in my cultural community in Wilmington, and I've never felt accepted. And that puts me in a place of, trying to figure out who am I really and where am I supposed to be.
Wow, those are folks right here in New Hanover County sharing their experiences. I really related to so many of the things people share. So, what can we do to push back on loneliness? Loneliness is tough, and it has real consequences for our health and lifespan. The pandemic certainly didn't help with social isolation and disrupted routines. We wanted to share a few practical tips you can take or share with someone who is struggling with loneliness right here in the coastal region. One thing to remember, someone could have a huge social network, but still be facing loneliness. So here are 3 tips we can take to help end loneliness in our own life or in our community. One thing we learned is that loneliness actually has a physical and neurological impact on your body. So one thing that helps is to be in spaces where you feel less lonely. So here are 3 doable things. Shake it up and head to a space where people are hanging out. If you can make it to a local park, library, coffee shop, church, or some sort of community space where you can grab a seat and just sit. Let conversation and chatter roll over you. It will start to make you feel better, we promise. In fact, our whole team has said that they were going to go try sitting somewhere where they would feel welcomed and safe just sitting. So join us in giving it a try. Many folks we talked with suggested volunteering. Pick up the phone and call someone. It could be a neighbor. It could be a family member or old friend. Ask them for a recipe. Ask for their advice. Tell them you enjoy checking in with them. Making a call will help you start to feel more engaged. Here is the other thing. If you think of someone in your life who might be lonely, give them a call. Chat them up. Acknowledging you feel lonely is often the first step to starting to address it. Take care of yourself. If you feel you need help, you can talk to your healthcare provider or family and other folks about feeling loneliness. Loneliness affects thousands of people right here in New Hanover County. There are many things you can do when trying to overcome it. The key is realizing how you feel and finding the best strategy for you. Shoresights is talking about loneliness because we have heard it is a critical issue facing our community. That is it until our next episode. If you're hearing this message, you've listened to our new episode all the way to the end. And for that, the Shoresights team wants to thank you. If you enjoy this podcast and want to help it grow, head to shoresights.org and click the support button to help us continue to grow. Shoresights is a project of Narrative Arts, a nonprofit organization based right here in Wilmington, North Carolina. Shoresights is supported in part by the North Carolina News Lab, the Narrative Arts Story Fund, Google News Initiative, and generous listeners like you.